you, the owner of the black Model T Ford, looking the...
Sorry, folks, it's not you, it's me. Or actually, us. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is God's best friend, and I'll tell you all about myself after I pay for the pizza. No, thank you. Till next time. As I was saying, don't mention it. As I was saying, my name is GBF, short for God's best friend. As you can deduce from the name, I have been assigned by God, otherwise known as He, who must be obeyed to defend Him. Yes, true, not on my own. God, otherwise known as Him upstairs by those who are not very good with authority, has assigned me and myself, led by Many Dog, to protect him against atheists like SDB. Where are you? I want to introduce you to... No, he's gone. Never mind. You see, the Almighty God, otherwise known as He, who must be obeyed, created the... Pardon? No, sorry. It's He who must be... Let me check my pocket. Sorry, nothing in there. Therefore, my opinion on the matter stands. There may be a universe in which females must be obeyed, but it's not this one. Oh, by the way, has anybody got the time? Thank you. I do tend to go on a bit. As I was saying before, the Almighty God, He who must be obeyed, created the universe. This was an enormous task, and it took out a lot of energy. Our job as defenders, ladies and gentlemen, is to resupply our God with missing energy. You see, the first law of thermodynamics teaches us that if God spent his energy on us, it's a matter of courtesy on our part to pay him back. If we don't have the energy, we burn in hell and use that. Put simply, nature doesn't give a free lunch to anyone. That's the first law. I'll deal with the second one later. As you can imagine, there are many devoted God defenders out there, besides me and my inner army of cells. God, luckily enough, can rest assured, knowing that his backside, metaphorically speaking, is shielded and that no atheist can, metaphorically or otherwise, touch him. Thanks to those defenders. Many of those defenders are worth mentioning, but as time is short, let me point to one who stands head and shoulders above the rest. It's the Reverend Dr Kent Hovind, whose life is devoted to defending the Creator and His creation. Even if your faith is your weakest link, 5 minutes with Dr. Hovind will make your faith stronger than the strong nuclear force. No one will split you from your God, not even Oppenheimer, yes? Sorry, it's that SDB against Satan's delivery boy's name is. That's okay, keep the change. You need it more than me. What part of don't mention it don't you understand? On your bike, polite, but very dangerous. If you don't watch your step with him, you might lose your religion in 10 seconds, yes? That. As you can see, boys and girls, I have my goldfish here with me. Now, luckily for him, his attention span is less than that, but you, boys and girls, need to be alert to the danger. One wrong step, and you're caught in the trap. However tasty the cheese, it's not worth losing your freedom to believe for it. Pardon me? Yes, you heard right. Freedom and belief are, as you may find if you follow my lectures, interlinked. If you sit quietly and listen without interrupting me, you will come to the right conclusions yourself. I will guide you away from hidden traps, and I will build your belief system brick by brick. But be warned, in the course of our lectures, you will face unbelievably frightening obstacles such as the mountain of knowledge on chapter 5, the digger, and the dark room in chapter 7, a dark matter. These might test your courage, but never fear, because even if you are in a logical corner, you know GBF is having you back. So go ahead, take those atheists on. Believe me, the battle will make your faith strong. And if I'm otherwise engaged, call Dr. Hovind. He is always available. To those of you who live in another universe, Dr. Kent Hovind is the straight-talking, free thinker who proved there are no typos in the Bible, and that science is a pyramid scheme devoted exclusively to finding typos in the Bible. He destroyed every scientist he ever debated and falsified every scientific theory, even before it was published. Some people are losers. In Wall Street, those weaklings are called bears. In that respect, Dr. Kent Hovind is the ultimate alpha male bull. He will stick to his values. Whatever the facts, believe me, you want him on your side. And if he's otherwise engaged, you can always use one of his immortal one-liners or axioms. Number 1, nothing exploded. And here we are. Number 2, how do you know? Have you been there? Number 3, you call them dinosaurs, we call them dragons. Number 4, if you're not in business, don't advertise. Number 5, what's a Chihuahua dog good for? I'm sure you'll agree we're talking about a true Renaissance man, not unlike Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo. And let's not forget the most important one-liner or axiom of them all. Number 0, if there is a creation, there is... Wait a minute. What did you say the time was? So why did you lie to me earlier? Thank God, God doesn't have this problem, what with him being timeless and... Exactly. Take a look around you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. What you see, all of it is a creation. Hence, one-liner or axiom, number 0. If there is a creation, there is a creator. Speaking of the creation and its creator, just the other day I had a debate on this very subject with Satan's delivery boy. I was curious as to how a smart boy like him didn't see that an amazing and complex universe couldn't just spring into existence. I will say this only once, so please concentrate, I said. And if your life is important to you, please keep this to yourself. SDB's mouth was full, which proved my point. Only an almighty God, I continued, making sure no one else was listening but for, harmlessly enough, a Chihuahua dog, can create a universe out of nothing. If SDB had an objection to my theory, he didn't present it. Are you concentrating? I asked. The dog was concentrating, hard even, but not on the universe. I'm talking to you. SDB's mouth was full, but other than that, I had his full attention. Complexity, I then declared, doesn't just. Now, in the course of my lectures, you are likely to hear quite a bit about God and about our duty to defend him. If you hold your horses, as they say, all will be clear in good time. In the meanwhile, let me just say that God defending can take many forms. Some prefer to defend God by flying into buildings, but I prefer defending God by conducting a friendly debate on a park bench. You are welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, but if you follow the evidence, you will find that my defense mechanism is just as effective. Emerge. SDB didn't seem to comprehend that simple truth. The Chihuahua dog, however, did, and started chasing his tail, safe in the knowledge that complex things emerge for a reason. Sorry? SDB's mouth was full of pizza, but not his ears. I said complexity doesn't just emerge. Right, he said. While he was munching, a complex thought was emerging in his brain, or at least I thought so. He scratched his head again. In your own good time, I added. An alien spaceship landed on the bench between us, asked for directions, then took off. Well, I urged him for a rebuttal. God looked down anxiously, but said nothing. I'll take your silence as an admission that God, I'll have to think about it. Yes, you heard right. That's what he said. It's not a joke. Instead of nodding like a good boy, he considered, thinking about what I told him. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I was horrified too, but I stood my ground. Thinking, if properly guided, can be quite useful. After all, thinking is what separates us from the dinosaurs, IBM PC clones, and, you'll have to agree, women. Yes, goldfish as well. Although you'll be surprised to know what this here goldfish can, I'm not saying don't think. I cautiously guided his thought process, but I'll advise you to think carefully what you think about. He thought carefully about what he was going to think about and said, I'm not sure about that creation theory. Well, SDB, it was time to be rude. You're free to believe what you want, of course. This is not Russia. But be careful. If you say it out loud, it might sound stupid. I don't know about you, gentlemen and boys, but if someone said that to me, I would answer with,
"Why are you calling stupid?"
or words to that effect, but SDB took it on the chin. "I'll take the chance," he said, smiling. Now, before we go any further, I'd like you to take a moment and imagine the scene. There we are, debating the serious matter of creation, no less, and I would go as far as to say that any slip of the discussion can be mortal to the creation as a whole and to the creator in particular, and this idiot sits there munching on a pizza he should have probably delivered to someone else and smiling. You'll have to agree with me, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that if you were there debating him, you would have wiped that smile off his stupid face. But there's a but, of course. A big one, you see. A debate of this kind is trickier than you might think. If you go too hard, you might win the argument, but you might destroy the universe in the process. Satan's delivery boy needed to accept my argument from within. He must feel as if he won the argument, and in fact God's existence was his own bright idea. Not easy, but doable. I needed to handle the situation with care. One slip, yes, a bull in a china shop, a very good metaphor, or a bear in a bull market, very good, or an alien spaceship in a car park, thank you, that'll do. As I was saying, not now please. If it's all the same to you, save your questions to the end of the lecture. Just one then. Okay, let me repeat the question, just in case any of our audience was busy. The fat lady in the front row wants to know if a bear can change his behavior and become a bull. Well, the answer to this question is simple. If God created a market where prices go off the chart, I wouldn't blame any bear for coming out of his cave and buying like crazy. If by doing that he finds a pair of horns on top of his head and becomes a raging bull, that's another issue. But yes, if God wants a bear to become a bull, he can do it. Oh yes, he can. What part of omnipotent is not clear to you? And he is omnipresent too, so behave. Everybody on the same page? Good. Now, back to my debate with that smiling idiot, Satan's delivery boy. Some scientists believe this, I said, a universe out of nothing. But you know scientists, I know them, he said, still smiling. I happen to be one, although not a very successful one. In that case, SDB, my friend, I don't wish to insult you personally, especially as I can't blame you for any major scientific theory, but I'll tell you what I think of you scientists in general terms. You are not much more than a bunch of liars with a hidden agenda. And I'm being polite here. I'm sorry, the amazing complexity of the world is proof of, let's just call him a creator. SDB looked at me and said nothing. He had a lovely smile. His eyes were wide open. You still don't get it, I said. If you see a creation, you know there is a creator. By definition, you might not know who the creator is, but you know there is one. Was one. He corrected me, if you like. Now, Satan's delivery boy looked at me, and I could see the wheels of his brain spinning. He obviously had something to say, but he couldn't quite form it into a coherent sentence. Can you explain? Creation for me, he said. He wasn't smiling now. I could see why he was not such a good scientist. That's how I liked him. No problem, I said. An airplane flew into a building not far away, but luckily for God, I don't get distracted when I'm on a mission. Let's see. If you see a wristwatch or a toilet, you know someone has created them, right? I guess. And if you see a painting, even an abstract one, you can be sure someone has created it as well, right? Can't argue with you there, I said, but I still don't understand. Atheists can be so stupid. What's not to understand? You see a creation, you know there is a creator. End of. Well, a little atheist moron was slowly forming a question. I could see it coming any moment now. So, the wristwatch, the toilet, and the painting are creations. Yes, I said. Then added, and, get this, other creations are available. Other? Yes, I said. A pyramid, to name one, and a joke. How astonishing, he said. So they are all creations. Yes, all creations. A wristwatch, a toilet, a painting, a pyramid, a joke. Creations? Absolutely. Even the scientific theory is a creation which was created by and the universe? A creation. Exactly the same. You see, the aforementioned wristwatch and toilet didn't assemble themselves, right? Right. And the painting didn't paint itself either, right? Right again. And the universe didn't create itself. Hence, the creator, who created it with his own hand. One hand, mind. That made him think for a few minutes before he said, right, and can we learn anything about the creator by examining his creation? Thank God. I think he's getting there. Maybe there was redemption for poor little Satan's delivery boy. After all, he was definitely eyeing the slice of cheese at the end of the trap I placed before him. The Chihuahua dog, who was concentrating all the while, barked, but SDB rightly ignored him. He continued to probe. So, if I see a wristwatch or a toilet, I can guess what? About its creators. To which I responded, well, obviously a watchmaker and a plumber, respectively. There's no doubt there. And they are, in all likelihood, human and male, respectively. He scratched his head again. And white, probably, I added. And how about the painting? Obviously a painter. Most likely a human male as well. Does that help? You see, all I wanted was to help him see the light at the end of the dark tunnel he was in. And not too dark, I added. Most probably a white human male. He looked quite happy with the answer I just gave him, and for a moment he looked like he was ready to head home. Indeed, he has taken the first step, but then he said, just one more question, GBF. Excuse me? I told you before, I don't do questions, and if you must, keep them to the end. No, that was Satan's delivery boy. He was about to go, but he needed to ask one more question, which I think is fair enough. Okay. What's your question? And please keep it short. Right. I'll just repeat the question for those who are scratching their heads. The young lady wants to know if a bull can become a bear. Let me put it that way, young lady. Imagine yourself in a field and you're feeling a little, how shall I put it, ready to create a new life. Anyway, there's a bull in the field. You're a cow in that scenario, by the way, and he is ready to co-create that same new life. Just to be sure, you can see the steam coming out of his nose and the dust he raises with his hoof. Are you there with me? Good. Now, imagine God hovering about the field. I don't know about you, and I don't want to diminish God's image, but exactly. Even if I was God, which thankfully I'm not, I don't think I would try to convert that bull into a bear, which is how God is the co-creator of every... You got it. You don't have to actually fuck every cow to get the credit. Yes, exactly. God helps the bull to help himself. If the bull doesn't give a shit, we shouldn't expect God to... And that goes for you lot. Pardon? That is actually a good question. A bear and a bull are two different kinds. That is to say, God created them separately. Bulls, outside of Wall Street, of course, don't fuck bears, female or male. Well, maybe, but not in this universe. Yes, if you show me the evidence. Now, back to my debate with Satan's delivery boy, who accepted my arguments and was on the verge of becoming a true believer, only he had to ask just one more question, GBF. At your service? I can be polite like that. What about the pile of dog shit? Oh, I said, still trying to be as helpful as I could. A pile of dog shit is obviously the creation of a dog or another animal of that kind. So, not human male, kinds, boys and girls, are what God personally created. Man and dog are different kinds, and so you'll be hard pressed to see a man coming out of a female dog wagging his butt, said SDB. Now don't be silly, SDB, I said. The creator of a pile of dog shit is definitely not a human male. It is most probably a dog, although, unlike the wristwatch, the toilet, and the painting, it is just as likely to be female. You mean a bitch, said SDB. Just as likely as a male dog, I agreed. Bitches are almost as good as male dogs at taking... I'm sorry, there's someone at the door. Oh, it's you again. What are the odds? Funnily enough, I was just telling these here good people about you. Yes, good things, relatively speaking. What is it now? You're conscious. You have one of those. I thought God didn't... Okay, I'll take the small change if it makes you happy. I'll give it to God on our next meeting. Not sure when? Well, it's my money and I'll give it to... If it's all the same to you. Nabazov. No, just some stuff to do with female dogs. I mean bitches. About their creative ability, shit like that. Nothing for us to worry about. Good. Keep up the good work. The bad work. Yes, I'll make sure your image in my pocket. Well, the small change... I see. Got it. Interesting. It looks, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, like my opinion of the female of the sexes has just been updated. I'll give it to you as soon as I can comprehend it. Let's continue with the story. I just confirmed to SDB that females can be almost as good as males in some areas. I wondered exactly what my new opinion about females was, but I had SDB to convert first. He didn't disagree with the almost equal ability of females in some areas. So the clue to the creator is in the creation, right? He said. We've already established that. I said. Thanks. Now, let's see. The wheels of his brain were turning again. I thought I saw steam coming out of his ears. The evidence shows, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a creator has to be a little more complex than his creation. Would you agree? Makes good sense, I guess. A watchmaker and a plumber are more complex than a wristwatch and a toilet, respectively? Absolutely. And a painter, even a painter-decorator, is more complex than any painting? Even Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa? Of course, a watchmaker and a painter are God's creations, as are most plumbers. Well, I'll be damned. SDB's brain was stretched to the limit. And the builder? And the joker? God's creations, all of them, even scientists. And the female dog, she is one of God's creations as well, right? Yes, I said. All animals are God creations. So, said SDB, trying hard to concentrate, a dog, even a female one, is more complex than a pile of dog shit? By a margin, I said. Well then, he said, can I deduce then that God is more complex than the universe? I had to agree. By the same ratio that the dog is more complex than dog shit? I realized, with horror, what was coming next. If the creator is more complex than the universe, then the creator's creator must be more complex than the creator. By the same dog-to-dog shit ratio, and so on, forever. Creator, before creator, before creator. Backward, no beginning to stop and catch your breath. Endless compound complexity. Our God must be the stupidest of an endless long line of supergods, by a margin. And although no one can deny that he defined Job with this universe, I started seeing a few design errors here and there. Pigs, to name one. And men's nipples. There were more. They were everywhere I looked. Cats cover the sheet. Why can't dogs? Why waste 249,999,999 sperms to create one life, if that? Everywhere I looked, I saw design faults. I looked at SDB, a non-believer. If this isn't a design fault, I don't know what a design fault is. Speaking of which, let me answer the door. You need the money. Why am I not surprised? I'm afraid it's a little late in the day. A parking fine. Yes, I do own a black Model T. The time has expired. I'm sorry, this is a timeless... Well, I thought God was in charge of these things. Don't forget to thank him. Obviously, in the beginning there were more than enough parking spaces, and, of course, no time limit. Yet another design fault, it seems. You, for example. A design fault. Your point. You being a design fault is your proof. Well, for your information, God is omnipotent and can make mistakes if it feels like. Have you got a problem with that? Good. See you at the park. I wish God was a little more selective with his creativity, ladies and gentlemen. Not that I would design a better universe if it was down to me, but I promise you, in my universe, there would be no non-believers such as this one. Still, to be fair, I suppose it's hard for anyone, God or no God, to avoid faults when you make everything by hand. Now, where was I? Yes, if SDB isn't a design fault, all of a sudden, I didn't feel very helpful. This can't be right, I said to myself. They were all hiding, which I found very disappointing. Some cells will roll, but not now. Now, I was in the corner, losing my religion. It was obvious, ladies and gentlemen, that I needed help. Now, you know as well as I do that God helps those who help themselves. So, of course, I needed someone else's help before God could. I wanted to call Dr. Kent Hovind for help, which usually helps, as Dr. Hovind has outdebated every scientist who dared blocking his path. Even Albert Einstein couldn't stop his arguments, although to be fair, Einstein was dead on the day of the debate. I started dialing, but then I stopped. Dr. Hovind is probably too busy for the likes of me. I then decided to call his son Eric, who is a slightly simpler version of his dad, but again I stopped because Satan's delivery boy, SDB, displayed another side to his personality. He became nice. I think it's not fair on God to load him with all this beauty and complexity, he said, with a strange compassion in his voice. If we look at the evidence, the Bible and YouTube will do, we find that God is much simpler. In fact, he is more or less as complex as a lick of paint on the wall, and definitely less complex than a wristwatch or a toilet. What do you think, GBF? Makes sense, I said. I looked up into the heavens, but if God was offended, he didn't give any indication to that effect. I thought it was time for him to get involved. There is a limit as to how anyone, God or no God, can rely on friends and family. You know, once upon a time, God was so simple. I sighed heavily. You prayed, God answered. If he didn't, you assumed he was otherwise engaged. Life went on. When someone introduced himself to you, you believed him. That applied to God. When he said, I am your God, you believed. It was a time of good faith. I know what you mean, said SDB, his eyes closed with nostalgia. If someone says to you today, they'll be met with a lot of skepticism. Skepticism, I demanded. Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I can see your heart melts at the sight of a poor, lost atheist sheep taking his first baby steps toward visually impaired faith. I can see you opening your door to him and even letting him sleep on the blanket where your dead cat used to. Luckily for you, however, Satan's delivery boy wasn't standing at your door. Just picture this nightmare scenario. One moment, your innocent house guest chews on a bone under your table. The next moment, or 10 seconds later on average, if you want to be scientific about it, your religious is gone. You search for your religion, and lo and behold, there isn't any. And once that happens, there's no stopping. Your morality, for example. Say you need to make a moral decision, perhaps to do with disciplining a wife or a sheep. You look for the relevant moral, and it's not there. And from here to eating your children, well, it's a small step for men, luckily. Oh no, morality? Don't get me started, please. You're not ready yet. I'll explain morality later in chapter 11. Satan, what's it good for? As you can deduce from the name, it's far too complicated. If you're good enough to stick with me until then, you will find, or I'm sure you'll be there, dead or alive. Well, in a nutshell, morality is made of morals. Eating your children is bad, to name one. God, if you insist. If not for God, you'll be eating your children and you'll be quite proud of it. I told my children today, you'll say to an impressed neighbor, have you got any left? That kind of thing. Precisely. No children, no humans, no one to talk to God, no universe. See? Of course you don't. It's too early in your development, but trust me, You lose your morality, and from then, eating your children, or wives for that matter, is a small step. Luckily, well, it's not really luck. The reason why SDB didn't knock on your door is, of course, the fact that me, and my army intercepted him just in time. But if you want to consider yourself lucky, I'm not going to argue with you. We are here to defend. Luckily for you, and I might add, luckily for God, you don't have to get your hands dirty. The reason your religion is safe is, well, me. I'm not one to blow my own trumpet, but if I don't, who will? Oh, just a point of disclosure. Other defenders are, as they say, available. There are other God defenders out there, and so there is a tiny possibility that it was another defender who protected your particular door. Speaking of which, one of them could have been the poor soul who earlier smashed a plane into that building, but it's not very likely. Hey, GBF, said SDB, look what I found. It was a small box, painted black. SDB was pleased with himself. If he had a tail, it would be wagging. Must have dropped from that airplane, I said with disdain. Let's have a listen. To those of you who admire those who fly into buildings, let's just say that
Are we there yet?
followed by you have reached this doesn't sound like very good defending, but as I always say, you're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong. I tossed the box into the pond and got back to the real business of God defending. Skepticism, I demanded. You better believe it, said SDB. Now, I don't know about you, but my method of debating is less about learning and more like a bare knuckle fight. If you see a vulnerable non-believer, you punch his light out. Speaking of skepticism, I said, as SDB stood in the middle of the metaphorical ring with his fist nowhere near his defenseless stupid face. Let me introduce you. God was sitting on my shoulder and directing my fist to God, who is my best friend in case you forgot. Okay, no need to grumble. I agree that when you've got God on your shoulder, it's not a fair fight. So, if you have a problem with that, take a look at my face. Now, focus on my eyes. One of them will do. And now the nose. That should do it. Do I look bothered? Exactly. And neither should you be. I'm not one to blow my own punches, but you are welcome to draw your own conclusions here. Satan's delivery boy was on the metaphorical ring floor. Now, usually when you knock someone out, you switch his light off. But when God knocks someone out, as in this case, the light switches on. It's not that I don't believe in God, said SDB, looking just about over my shoulder. Obviously, he exists. Good, I thought. SDB sees some light. By the way, what's that bump on your shoulder? SDB looked puzzled. It's probably a metaphor. Sorry. I was going to tell him to watch his language and
Why are you calling it a metaphor?
or words to that effect, but he continued, of course God exists. He is everywhere. He is definitely 1 foot out of the dark tunnel. The hunters amongst you, gentlemen and boys, would be reminded of a velociraptor about to step on a trap. But there's always a but with these people. They know too much. I should have killed him when he was on the floor before I had the chance to mention, of course God exists, but have you ever thought of God not as a creator, but you might want to suspend your disbelief for a moment as a creation? Now I was seeing some light. You know, GBF, said SDB obviously on somewhat of a roll, if you look at God as a creation, I can guess who his creator was, I said. Who his creator was, SDB corrected himself. So, who was he? I asked. But then the sun shone through a cloud, and I was a new man. There and then, I realized what my new and updated opinion about females was. I let my newly born inner woman take over and rephrased the question. So, who was he? Or in your opinion, of course. Well, said SDB slowly and methodically, on evidence. As SDB opened his mouth to answer, I was getting used to the idea that God's creator, as indeed her creation, was of the gentler of the sexes. I even practiced referring to God as she who must be obeyed, which somehow had a more realistic ring to it, although I had an issue with the phrase her upstairs. Thankfully, Satan's delivery boy restored the natural order of things on evidence. You'll be relieved to know that God's creator is obviously male, and as he is slightly more complex than a lick of paint and less complex than a toilet or a wristwatch, I'll just have to conclude that God's creator is an average, or was an average, human male. I could clearly see a light bulb above his head. Probably white, he added. That sounded reasonable, but it somehow didn't agree with my new and updated worldview, so I asked SDB for a second opinion. A second opinion, right, said SDB. If you want my second opinion on the matter, and I agree it's always best to ask for a second opinion, well, it is. My worldview hung on the balance of what SDB was about to say. I held my breath. Now, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, please hold the air in your lungs a little longer. I know you are dying to know who, according to SDB's second opinion, God's creator was, but please bear with me a second. I have an apology which I'd like to share with you. If there are any scientists in the room, yes, I can see you, SDB. I mean other scientists, if you don't mind. Anyway, I seem to have accused you lot for falsifying the Bible. I know you mean well, but for God's sake, stop it. Yes, SDB? Science is all about falsifying the first opinion with the second one? Listen, let's talk about it over lunch. Thank you. Let me finish the story, of which you are the main protagonist. Okay, boys and girls? Thanks for holding your breath with me. You can let it out now. No? In principle, you can inhale and exhale without permission. That's okay. I'll remember next time to remind you to breathe. If any of you is dead, well, sorry, my fault. Consider this a learning experience. I'm sorry, I think I'm missing something here. When exactly has being dead become a problem? To the true believer, death is no more than going home at the end of the bad day in the office. Of course, if you're good, there is no fixed number of if you're good, SDB. When you are dead, that's forever. Trust me on this. Oh, before I go back to the debate, let me just declare that no airplanes were destroyed while creating this chapter. Back to my debate with Satan's delivery boy. I was holding my breath, you may recall, anticipating SDB's second opinion as to who God's creator was. If you want my own second opinion, which, by the way, yes, I could hardly contain myself. By the way, how are we doing for time? Can we please agree on something and stick to it? So, when was I? Bloody hell, the cleaners are coming any minute. If you want my honest second opinion, which, by the way, is just as plausible as my first opinion, said SDB, so God Creator is, I asked him. If you want my second opinion, just to be on the safe side, please note that other creators are available. Yes, but I want your opinion, the second one. Right. If you want my honest second opinion, which, by the way, is just as plausible as my first opinion, said SDB, then I will have to say that God's creator was a strong alpha male. It took me a few seconds to register that, according to SDB's second opinion, God was a pile, not necessarily white, of bull. Correct me if I'm wrong, he said, but to your knowledge, has anybody seen God in the same room as a pile of bullshit? It looks like somebody has just walked into a perfect logic trap. But it wasn't me. Thanks, SDB. I smiled triumphantly. You've just given me a reason why my faith should be strong.